The Room 13, a hotel in Tangier hiding a terrifying secret. It was a rainy evening in Tangier, a city that seemed to blend the charm of old Morocco with the secrets of 1,000 untold stories. The city's narrow streets echoed with the chatter of locals and the clatter of the occasional tourist, as though the waves of history were constantly lapping at the edges of the city, whispering secrets of the past. In the heart of this mysterious place stood the Hotel El Bari, a modest yet somewhat enigmatic hotel known by few and frequented by even fewer. Among the regular guests, there was a tale that had slowly woven itself into the fabric of local legend. It was about Room 13. To the average visitor, the hotel seemed like an ordinary establishment with faded carpets and creaky wooden stairs that seemed to tell the tale of countless footsteps that had come and gone. Yet, those who had dared to venture into the depths of the hotel, to the topmost floor, where the air grew heavier and the rooms seemed to hold an uncanny silence, would tell you about Room 13. It was a room that most travelers never booked. In fact, it was rumored that Room 13 was never available to the public. The staff, a group of polite and seemingly uninterested individuals, would always tell guests that the room was under renovation. But every so often, there would be strange occurrences that would shake the quiet, and the eerie reputation of Room 13 would resurface. It was one rainy night when a traveler by the name of Michael, a writer from Paris, checked into the hotel. He had arrived after a long day of exploring Tangier, and the storm outside had pushed him to seek shelter in the most obscure place he could find. Having no reservations, he was offered the key to a room on the top floor. It was Room 13. Michael had heard the rumors of the room before, but being a rational man, he had dismissed them as nothing more than local superstition. He was tired, eager to rest, and the mysterious allure of the room intrigued him more than it frightened him. The receptionist handed him the key with a polite smile, but there was a brief hesitation in her eyes, as though she were about to say something but thought better of it. "The room is a bit old, monsieur," she said, almost apologetically. "But it is fine." He nodded, thanked her, and made his way up the stairs. As he ascended, the hotel grew quieter, as if the walls themselves were closing in. The creak of each step seemed to reverberate through the old structure, and Michael couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. When he finally reached the door to Room 13, he paused. The air around it felt thicker than elsewhere in the hotel, as if time itself was slowing down. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, the only light coming from a flickering bulb above. The furniture was old but functional, an antique bed, a wooden chair, and a wardrobe that seemed far too large for the small space. There was a thick layer of dust on everything, as if the room hadn't been used in years. Despite the odd atmosphere, Michael placed his suitcase on the bed and began unpacking. He made a cup of tea from the small kettle in the corner and settled by the window, looking out over the rain-soaked city below. That night, however, as the storm outside grew fiercer, something strange began to happen. At first, it was small things, faint noises in the walls, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. But as the hours ticked by, the sounds grew louder. The door to the wardrobe creaked open on its own. Michael stood frozen, staring at it, unsure whether it was his imagination playing tricks on him. When he approached the wardrobe and opened it fully, there was nothing inside, just the scent of something musty, something forgotten. As he closed the wardrobe door, he noticed something even more unsettling. The walls of the room seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy, as though they were alive. The temperature dropped suddenly, and Michael's breath began to mist in the cold air. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, more distinct, and it was then that he realized they were speaking his name. "Michael! Michael!" Frozen with fear, he turned toward the bed, where something caught his eye. The bed covers were moving, as if someone, or something, was underneath them. He rushed to the bed, but as soon as he touched the covers, they fell still. He backed away slowly, his mind racing. The room had become alive with a presence that he couldn't explain, a presence that seemed to have come from a place much darker than the storm outside. He stumbled to the door, ready to flee, but as he reached for the doorknob, he felt a cold hand grasp his wrist. He spun around, but no one was there. The whispers had turned into desperate screams now, echoing off the walls. "Get out! Leave!" Michael wrenched the door open and fled into the hallway, his heart pounding. He rushed down the stairs and found the receptionist, who was still seated at her desk, seemingly unmoved by the chaos. "I need to leave," Michael gasped, but the woman simply stared at him, her eyes hollow. "It's too late," she said softly. "Room 13, takes what it wants." Michael didn't need to hear more. He ran out into the storm, never looking back at the Hotel El Bari. But as he made his way through the streets of Tangier, he couldn't shake the feeling that the hotel, and room 13, would always follow him, lingering in the corners of his mind. The next morning, when the storm had passed, Michael returned to the hotel, determined to find answers. But when he asked about room 13, the receptionist seemed not to understand. "There is no room 13, she said, her face impassive. "It hasn't been used in years. It's a storage room now, for old things we don't need." But Michael knew what he had experienced was real. The hotel had hidden its terrifying secret from the world, and room 13 had claimed another victim. And though the room itself may have been forgotten by time, Michael's story would live on, carried by the whispers of those who dared to stay in room 13, if only they could survive to tell it.